Today, I wanted to go over my thoughts and a couple of the builds and the kind of thought processes that I've been having when it comes to WutheringWaves as we approach the, I would like to say early middle, or like middle, maybe beginning of the end game when it comes to WutheringWaves. I am now at the phase where all I'm basically doing is doing dailies or weeklies, waiting for things like upgrades so that I can clear the abyss and things of that nature. But without further ado, let's get into it. So as you can see right now, I'm Union level 35, and I'll go over what exactly has changed or what I've unlocked. But let's actually talk about my resonators, because that's probably what's most important. You're probably curious about who I have leveled, why they're leveled this way, how I've been leveling them, and what I've been using them for. So let's break it down. The first character that I have here is the Havoc Rover. I don't really have the best set on him right now. Currently, I'm trying to farm out the Sword 18 so that I can give the Sword 18 to my Danjin. But in terms of his weapon, it's not really upgraded right now. That being said, I don't really have too much investment right now onto my Rover, although I do acknowledge that the Danjin Havoc double Dreamless composition right now is really strong. But let's talk about his echoes. As it stands right now, there is a lot of discussion about what's worth upgrading or what you should be upgrading to what investment. And right now, it does feel like upgrading everything to plus 20 is really worthwhile. However, for me personally, I don't know if it's just a cope thing or what, but you get so many Dreamlesses, or the act of farming Dreamless is not too difficult, and I just really want as much crit chance as possible. And the only way to guaranteed increase crit chance, technically speaking, as a main stat is to, of course, upgrade your 4-cost Echo. And for whatever reason, I know it's not like ideal or the best way to use it. This is what I've decided to do. As you can see outside of that, however, on my Rover, I'm not upgrading anything super high. I will likely be landing on all of these things being upgraded to plus 20, but no more than that, because I cannot afford it. You simply don't have enough Echo EXP at that point. In terms of investment from skills, there is an argument to be had towards not upgrading these and putting more investment into the Echoes, as the Echoes can be more interchangeable in some cases. But as it stands right now, this is what I had upgraded, and by the time I had realized maybe it wouldn't have been as worth it, even though these technically give you stat values, I had already done it. Maybe a blunder on my part, but it's where I decided to invest some of my energy. Now, in terms of sequences, everyone has S2, so that's nothing super big, but let's move on to Danjin. So my Danjin is a little bit better built, not super insane. Honestly, these two DPSs are some of my worst built characters. Right now, I do have a max Dreamless, again, a 22 crit rate one, and this time with a little bit more value. I've got things like Resonance Liberation, crit damage, basic attack damage bonus, which is fine. But as I mentioned previously, I have things like an only plus 20 Havoc Dreadmane. I have Havoc damage bonus on these two 3-cost Havoc characters, and although this is something I'm going to be emulating on my Havoc Rover as well, I could not afford to upgrade it on my other character, and I don't even have another Havoc damage bonus Roshroom for my main character. So right now, Danjin is the one that is holding it. And as you can see, the pieces on her are not great. This Tic Tac in particular is really worthless. It literally only has resonant skill damage and the basic attack damage bonus as well, with flat defense and flat HP. I want to get rid of it so badly, but I simply don't have enough EXP to get rid of it. So this is what my Danjin looks like right now. And she's got a decent amount of crit rate. She's got a decent amount of crit damage. 41 crit rate with 175 crit damage is not insane by any means, especially with 1k attack. As I mentioned previously, I do have Command with Conviction on her, and I do want to switch this off to sword number 18. But I really like Danjin, and I will probably be investing into her a little bit more. For skill ups, I've actually put a decent amount of investment into her, because although my Rover was more of a support when I first started playing the game, definitely put all I could into Danjin, because originally I wanted to buy into the don't get hit playstyle that involves Danjin, and as you can see, I invested pretty heavily into it. I got a lot of her talents, aka whatever this skill tree you want to call, upgraded, and I don't regret it, because I, of course, have seen how important or how OP that the Danjin Rover composition looks like. So this doesn't feel like that big of a waste. But while I was rolling down actually for Jiyan and trying to get him off of the limited banner, I actually managed to get S3 Danjin, which is a little bit unfortunate because I would like to get the damage increase when I'm below 60% HP. But 3 copies of Danjin, not bad, especially when I had to actually pity Jiyan, which was terrible and horrifying, but it is what it is. I got Danjin, I got Jiyan. All's well that ends well. Okay, now it's time for us to talk about one of the actual main DPSs that I invested a lot into, and that's Calcharo, who I'm kind of regretting at this point. To be clear, I understand that Calcharo was always slated to be terrible without Yinlin, although I do think that people are going to be surprised at how difficult it is going to be to play Calcharo alongside Yinlin. That doesn't mean that I haven't enjoyed playing him in the time that I have actually had him. I ended up using or buying the battle pass early on in the game, I wanted to have the Autumn Trace because, well, it's a pretty decent weapon, and I have 15 crit rate on it, which makes it pretty decent. And Calcharo, more than anything else, doesn't really have any crit rate built into his kit. So especially since I'm going to need more crit rate on my Calcharo, and I'm abiding by the 1 to 2 crit rate ratio, I'm going to need crit rate on my weapon. But you've probably already noticed that my crit rate is kind of capped, and that's for a good reason. Although it hasn't been reported yet, I have been talking to a couple of theory crafters, or it's been said that Tempest Mephis is actually a really good... It has been mentioned that although a lot of people were formerly using the Flautist as the main echo in the lineup when it comes to Calcharo and the echoes that he has, you're actually going to want to swap out Flautist here for a Tempest Mephis, just because Flautist doesn't do as much as it used to in Closed Beta 2. If I'm not mistaken, it hits a lot less times, which is actually really bad. So although I do have my plus 20 Flautist here, and again, same trait of having a bunch of plus 20 upgrades, I'm actually going to have to switch out this Thundering Mephis, which feels kind of bad because I do think that this looks pretty good to me. It's got 15 crit damage. It's got all these additional bonuses. It looks really good in honesty, and I'm gonna feel bad when I inevitably have to change this Thundering Mephis. I was thinking again about changing this to a Tempest Mephis, and I also have one piece that was upgraded. Here it is. So I do have the Tempest Mephis here upgraded. It feels a little bit bad because I've got 2 flat stats, but whether or not I'll change it, I'm not sure yet. It just feels a little bit bad at the moment. But that is the reason for why my crit rate is so low. It is that I have a crit damage 4-star echo. Moving along though, I also did enjoy Calcharo, and to be fair, I did start investing in him a little bit more as well. I did kind of make the assumption early on when I started playing this game that if you didn't have investment in your traces or your little skill tree, that you wouldn't have a lot of damage. And honestly, whether or not that was a bad investment or whether this is a good or bad investment, I did feel like I felt a bit stronger after upgrading it. However, again, with the kind of lack of Echo EXP, I feel like everything should be funneled towards upgrading your Echoes, especially because of how much value you get, especially when it comes from, especially when it comes to Element EXP. But as it stands right now, I don't have any imprints or I don't have any additional sequences for Calcharo. He has 36 crit rate and 255 crit damage, and I'm coping that with, I don't know, crit food or something to that extent, my Calcharo will be able to crit and make use of the 255 crit damage that I currently have. However, this is probably the character that I wish I hadn't invested in as early, and I'd wished that I had invested in someone like the Havoc main character or Danjin earlier on. That being said though, it is what it is. He's got 1.3k attack, 36 crit rate, and 255 crit damage, which is honestly better than I could have hoped because this is not a terrible set of gear for him. If I go through the echoes real quick, as you can see, crit damage, electro, this is attack, which is kind of a yikes, I guess. But I also have the fusion here for attack as well, and I also have the fusion here. All of these stats are okay for him. I've got things like crit damage, basic attack, regen, which is not that useful, but I have things like basic attack and heavy attacks. It's a little bit cope, but I couldn't really stand the idea of having to upgrade more pieces like this over and over. I am, of course, missing a little bit of element damage, which sucks, but live and learn. Let's move on. And now we have my Jiyan, who arguably, in my opinion, is the best well-geared character on my account. He's got 63 crit rate and actually has his signature weapon, which I managed to get a bit. Luckily, I think I only pulled something like 20 or 30, which was very generous of Kuro to not make me pity every single banner in the game, but it is what it is. I got it, and I'm happy with it. But in terms of stats and echoes, this was a character that I had invested fully into upgrading to plus 25, and he's got pretty good pieces. He's got this crit rate piece with a max roll of crit damage. He's got crit rate as well, alongside attack and resonant skill damage. He's got a Cyan Feathered Heron with arrow damage at the 3 cost. It's got energy regen, it's got skill resonance damage, crit rate, attack, super solid. Hoot Chief could probably be on arrow. I don't necessarily need to have energy regen. Based on the math that I've seen, I only need about 10% energy regen, even if I didn't have this Hoot Chief on, so if I just replaced it, it would have been fine. But the heavy attack, damage bonus, the crit rate, the crit damage feels kind of good on it, so I haven't touched it right now. The other pieces I have look pretty bad. I've got a plus 25 Young Rose Shroom that has a decent amount of attack, I guess, but it just has crit rate and the energy regen. And the Who's Camp also looks okay. Again, this one is kind of nice. Typically, you don't want to invest that much into all of these different stats. I would have preferred, of course, attack or crit damage instead, or something like, you know, resonance liberation damage. Who knows? In my opinion, this is probably my nicest looking character. Again, I'm rocking a 63 crit rate, which is higher than any character I have. And if I have my food, it would maybe jump up to something like 75 or 80, depending on what food I have. In terms of traces, this is another character. Again, like I said, don't know if this is super valuable right now just because of how different the stamina usage is right now in the game. They changed the way that stamina and the way that certain stamina output events or activities you do work. So originally tacit fields were like even worse, but then they removed the Echo EXP activity from simulation fields, which makes this a little weird. But it is what it is. I have no additional sequences for him, but I have 63 crit rate and 220 crit damage, and I think that's fine alongside the 1500 attack. The next character we have is Mortefi, and this is kind of going to be the trend for the rest of the characters that you're going to see right now because they aren't. And this is kind of going to be the trend that you see for the rest of my characters coming up. But most, if not all of these characters are not upgraded. What I'm looking at currently right now is something like, at most, a weapon that's being upgraded and the right sets equipped. Currently, I've been talking to a lot of the boys at Pridewin and a lot of the theory crafters behind the scenes about what they would use, what they would upgrade, etc. And outside of this spearback that I upgraded accidentally early on because I didn't know how important it would be or if Mortefi would be super strong, I haven't really put any investment into my supports. Again, to be clear, the investment of this character really comes down to just farming out a set for him. I have attack, fusion damage, and crit rate, which is what most Mortefis or most hybrid DPSs will be running. But you'll see that this is pretty much the case on all my characters, or I am currently farming for them. For Baiji, I'm looking for a healing rejuvenation set, and I need 2 3-cost echoes that have rejuvenating set on them, with pretty much the only goal of applying the attack buff to my team alongside healing. And then I'm planning on changing my Yang build here to also complement a team and also put the healing set on, because something that I've noticed, especially from the Tower of Adversity, is that I'm not missing out on heals. I'm getting one shot anyways. What I'm actually missing out on is additional damage. As you start to clear some of the Tower of Adversity stages, mostly because of the fact that I'm so underleveled, but the only way for me to even clear or have a chance at clearing is if I do enough damage, because that's how you beat the encounter. You need to beat up the enemy. So although I do appreciate the outro effect and the overall effects that I get from Moonlit Clouds for my Yang, what I actually want and feel like I need the most of right now is just a bunch of attack. Currently, when I use Mortefi or when I am giving a deepen multiplier to my Jiyan, it feels like he goes absolutely sicko mode and I one-shot everything in the game. But unless if I have that, or unless if I have DPS increaser, it feels like any of the characters I'm going to be using feel much weaker. I would also like to say that I do have some investment in some of these characters, like my Yang has 2 sequences in her, and my Mortefi has 4, luckily, while I was pulling for Jiyan. But in general, most of the characters I have here don't have too much invested in them. They pretty much just have the set pieces, or they kind of just have what I would imagine I need in order to activate sets, or activate and make sure that they don't die in combat. Yuan Wu is another character that I'd like to actually pair alongside Calcharo if I could right now. But honestly, my Calcharo is kind of hanging on just by sheer will and love from Baiji. In any case though, those are my characters right now. Those are the ones that I've invested in. Verina is also kind of the same, although this character I've put a little bit more time into farming at least the proper main stats for. Although my Hu Chief here is still kind of lacking in terms of energy regen. That being said though, I have upgraded my Verina to level 50 so that I can invest in and unlock this Gift of Nature Inherent skill. No one else has the level of investment though in terms of skills for my supports, but it seemed like the cost to upgrade any of these characters to level 40 was pretty low, so I did end up leveling every single character on my account to level 40, or at least unlocking the ability, I should say, to unlock them to level 40. Because it costed pretty much nothing. The Ascend material is super cheap. Well, let's talk about my dailies. So the thing about my dailies right now is that as it stands, all I'm kind of looking for is Echo EXP. Now, having stats and having ascensions are really important, don't get me wrong. Something that I've noticed is that the sets are kind of king right now. Now, that isn't to say that I need these sets on characters like Verina, or I need them upgraded on characters like Verina. If I'm not able to do enough damage in the Tower of Adversity, which is the content that is gatekeeping or kind of inhibiting me the most right now, I'm going to need more stats. A lot of these characters that I have right now are currently max ascended, either because they were purchasable things in the shop, or the souvenir store gave it to me, or I bought it from, or I got it or received it as a reward. But the thing that I'm always lacking is Echo EXP. So with that in mind, the thing that I'm spending the most time on right now is actually tacit fields. Tacit fields are really, really bad in terms of value. And honestly, I'm not very proud to even say that I have been farming tacit fields, but when you take a look at like what you're actually able to farm out for, or what you can even receive, or where you can even get these premium sealed tubes, the answer is nowhere. And that's unfortunate, because that's kind of the name of the game right now. It's tacit waves until any of us get Echo EXP. And the state of my characters reflects it. I don't have nearly enough crit rate on a lot of my characters. I also don't have a lot of attack in my characters, because I don't have most of these things upgraded. And outside of small things like missing weapons or missing out on weekly materials so that I can farm out and make certain craftable weapons and apply them to my damage dealers, that's what I've been kind of focusing on when it comes to Wuthering Waves. I'm waiting for my energy. I'm trying to farm out things like the tacit fields for EXP. I'm trying to farm certain proper main stats on characters, and I'll have guides for the characters so that you can understand what you should be farming to in the future. But outside of my dailies, what I've been doing is challenging these tactical holograms, because you can actually use these data sets to buy things from the store. They're quite nice, and again, if you aren't already familiar with it, or if you are underleveled, you can actually use the materials that you gain from doing, again, simulation training, or from doing any of these things to buy out resources like this. You can get lustrous tides. You can buy out, it's not shown here, but there are some tubes that were available here. You can even buy a phantom, aka shiny variation of some of the echoes in the game, which is also pretty cool, but I'm likely going to end up needing some of the premium tuners because I'm running out. And finally, the thing that I've been spending 99.99% of my time doing is actually just exploring. Because if you didn't know, some of the little stars or some of the monster encounters that you fight in the game don't just give you chests. Some of them actually give you these little star things that also give you Echo EXP, and that is a really, really big thing, especially when it comes to, again, trying to progress through or get your characters to be stronger. I do want to make mention that upgrading your 1 stars feels a little bit bad, because the 1% attack doesn't actually affect you nearly as much as you think. Outside of that, guys, that's kind of been my experience at Union level 35. The rewards feel about the same. Honestly, we've kind of gotten to the point, at least in the game, where all I'm doing is waiting for my daily energy to respawn so that I can maybe clear Tower of Adversity. It is Jiyan leaning right now, so I hope to be able to clear it soon. I haven't been able to upgrade my data bank because I'm not level 40, and thus I'm locked at level 19 and 20. I really, really wish I could get some of these rewards here at Soul Phase 5. But I can't. You can kind of see what my rewards are now. My drop rate is only 90%. My enhanced drop rate is 90%, which is nice for the 15 additional clears that you get per day. But my otherwise drop rate is only 20%, and I hope, I'm praying that my drop rate goes up sooner or later, or that I can unlock these data bank things so that I can get more guaranteed 5 stars. However, guys, that's pretty much everything that changes, or everything that you unlock, and kind of the state of the game and what happens when you hit Union rank level 35. The answer is that pretty much nothing changes. You end up just encountering the endgame loop of Wuthering Waves, which is just farming for better gear so you could challenge the Tower of Adversity, aka the Abyss, and on the way you may be doing events, challenges, exploration, etc. It feels kind of like the train is halted a little bit. Not that it's a bad thing, because now I could just log on, do my dailies, farm what characters I want, and then wait for, I guess, Echo EXP to upgrade some of my Echoes, which is kind of a nice brief reprieve from playing the game 24/7. But I want to play the game 24/7, so this feels a little bit contradictory. In any case, though, thank you again for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. YouTube thinks that you'd really enjoy watching this one. You should click this. How about you click this one? That seems pretty cool. You should click on that video. I think you would like it too. Go click the video. See ya.